A lovely good evening and a very warm welcome to our main news bulletin at 19:30 on Camnet TV. Let's look at some of the top stories making our news tonight. DUDUMWEZI constituency lawmaker calls on government to provide relief food for flood victims. The Bankers Association of Zambia predicts an increase in commodity prices. Court discharge former health minister Dr. CHILUFYA in a conspiracy to defraud the government case. In our international headlines, rise in Horn of Africa migration, a worry, says UN official. And in our sports, Tottenham manager Antonio Conte to miss London Derby against West Ham. We have the details shortly.
Are you looking for a prime land where to build your dream house? There is a beautiful corner plot, 50 by 47 meters in State Road area. For viewing and purchasing of the same, call SGK Property Company on 0966 610755 or 0762 166018. Secure your future by settling in a nice and peaceful area.
Thank you so much for joining us on our main news bulletin. Let's now look at the details. DUDUMWEZI constituency member of parliament Edgar Singombe has called for the distribution of relief food among farmers who have lost their crops due to floods in the area. Speaking to Camnet News, Mr. Singombe says crops of farmers, especially in the western side of the constituency, have been submerged, adding that a number of small livestock has also been carried away by the water. He has further challenged corporations in the country to extend their social corporate responsibilities to such areas. We have details in the following report.
While the floods being experienced in some parts of the country due to the heavy rain have brought concerns of human displacement, other concerns bordering on the well-being of farmers who depend on crops and livestock for a living have also risen. One such area affected by this calamity is DUDUMWEZI constituency in Southern Province, whose situation has concerned area Member of Parliament Edgar Singombe, as most crops have been submerged, while small livestock has been carried away by the water, a situation which he says calls for the distribution of relief food to affected farmers. Mr. Singombe adds that the floods have also cut the DUDUMWEZI-Iteshteji road into two parts, making trade difficult.
The situation is bad in some areas, like I've indicated, because most of their crops have been submerged in water. And you know, with a lot of water, it means that there's nothing that you can salvage from there. So there's need to ensure that farmers are assisted in one way or another in terms of relief, food relief, clothing, and so forth. But again, when we come to relief, I think it must be categorized. For me, I would say we need those that require 100% relief. There are some, because right now people have started at least eating the fresh maize, but it's not enough for a family just to live on fresh maize. We also probably require those who say maybe they provide us what we call food for work, because some certain areas are very difficult to pass. So we needed to find a way of probably helping certain areas, because most of the bridges have been washed away.
Meanwhile, Disaster Management and Mitigation Unit DMMU National Coordinator Dr. Gabriel Pollen says the unit will distribute food to areas that have been affected adversely according to the crop survey that will be given by the Ministry of Agriculture.
Now, the good part about it is that some of those households already have adequate nourishment for this period. It's only during the lean period that the government comes in through elevation of intervention in terms of relief provision. So what the government does at the particular point is to ascertain which areas are the surplus areas and which areas are the deficit areas. And through the redistribution mechanism, the government deploys its architecture of resource reallocation and directs relief to those areas that are hardest hit in terms of deficit.
The MP, however, states that by next year, most of the roads that have been cut off will be worked on, as the current Constituency Development Fund, CDF, is mostly being used to procure machinery for roadworks. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
Occupants of Mufuwe settlement of Mambo district in Eastern Province have been left stranded after the roads leading to Lusangazi district got washed away by heavy rains. Lusangazi Council Chairman Blackson Tembo has explained that the situation needs urgent intervention and has called on government to send the relevant authorities to inspect and deal with the situation. Mr. Tembo says government does not need to wait for lives to be lost before acting on the situation. More in this report.
The heavy rains being experienced in some parts of the country have left devastating effects that have negatively impacted many lives. This is a road from Lusangazi district of Eastern Province that leads to Mfuwe settlement in Mambo district and has not been spared from the devastating effects of the rain. The settlers of the two villages of Chief Malama and Chief Sandwe are now at risk as the heavy rains have washed away the bridge and they are now being forced to cross the river with a heavy currency flow of water. Lusangazi Council Chairperson Blackson Tembo, who visited the area, is saddened by what he has seen but remains confident in the new administration.
We are appealing to our government, listening government, the president of Hakainde Hichilema, the new Dawn government. We are sure that the president will do something over this. You know, this is a time, you know, pregnancy has not time to occur. What we have a lot of things that has been affecting our people. We would very much appreciate if the government would come and put a bridge here. This is a main way leading to Mfuwe. From here to Mfuwe is less than 40 kilometers. This is the river that is in between Chief Malama and Chief Sandwe. Next is Mambo district, across is the Lusangazi district.
He has since called on government to send a team of experts to assess the situation before a life is lost.
And the Honorable Member for Infrastructure, Honorable Miropi, we appeal to you to come and visit this place and see. We have disasters even here, which we need your attention. Even the service chiefs, the National Service, Zambia Army, Zambia Air Force, to come and see and assess for this situation.
Children and expectant mothers are all being forced to cross this heavily flooded river to access school and hospitals as they are left with no choice. Their hope now remains in the government to intervene in the shortest possible time. Prudence Chota reporting for Camnet TV News.
The settlers of Kampata have vowed not to vacate the lands they are currently occupying, saying the land in question is their birthright. This is in a story where the residents of Chongwe's Kampasa village have moved back into the land that they were allegedly forced to vacate from, as their current space can no longer accommodate them. The land in question originally belonged to them after a white settler who lived there was deported by the United for a National Independence Party government, and ever since they have been wrangles over its ownership. Speaking in a walk-in interview with Camnet News, the residents say it is illogical to allow people of foreign origin to continue taking over land that belongs to Zambians. They have since called on President Hakainde Hichilema to safeguard the interest of Zambians in land administration in the country.
Singaende ku Tanzania kufikira te kugura baranda tapa ndiye pato isetifunika pamene pane pana badura makolo pane wankala makolo pane tabadura isi ndiye patifunika onkala pamene paja. Now if ngati muzungu abwela afuna kutenga title afunika paja ponse paita bwanji patina nkala paita bwanji pasala even government ya bwanji amene bantu bali bawo mazambian bamene bene balandi bapase foreign land yamene pankala na bantu nishini misura bwanji. Then bafomereza uja mzungu ati no iwe batose pangale kufeva mzungu than ku bantu bawo. Are you sure our president isa tingaende oro ku Dubai, tingaende oro ku America, tingaende oro ku England to say isapa ndepa tinankala kudala so title sunga pass vipanga sense kuli bevane vingachitike so isapa tinankala paja ni pamene paja. Sikuti kapena tiganza na kutati kapena kutita intimidate olomanta olo kamba tumebiti za choka hapo le olomairo tinabwelela palandi ili atu.
People died there in Kampasa. from there almost 8 years or 10 years from that time until she has come back, and there is also confusion which have started there. So you should know that leadership ya Honorable watu wa Mchongwe siri mushi. So our request that let the president himself, because he has been there in Kampasa, let the president himself come there and visit that place and see how people they are living.
The people of Kampasa now, they are very happy because they are back on their land, and we want to see that smile continue from now. So we don't want anyone to come and disturb people of Kampasa.
A community development activist in Chilanga District, Fraser Moyopi, has advised local authorities to consider rolling out community appraisals in the wards aimed at determining what projects people want to put up for them using the Constituency Development Fund, CDF. In an interview, Mr. Moyopi says these appraisals should then be used as the basis for assigning appropriate projects that respond to issues affecting the community. Now, the community development activist adds that these should then be used as reference documents by ward development committees at the time of approving applications for projects from communities, groups and individuals. He notes that in the absence of a well-structured approach to identifying community problems, the delivery of equitable development to communities may not be achieved.
Community appraisals are very important. Why do we need community appraisals? Community needs to be assessed because before you implement an activity, you need to understand what is obtaining on the ground, and you can only understand if you appraise. 2, we need to understand the people's perception. These people that talk, no, those are the people that need to be engaged so that they understand their own perspective in the community. And by the way, all community members know their problem. And so if you carry out a community appraisal, an assessment, then you'll be able to help people understand their problems, and then people will be able to describe their problems correctly. Remember, in the absence of appraisals, community members will be describing problems wrongly. If problems are described wrongly, it means interventions will also be wrongly done. You, at the end of the day, start providing or implementing projects that address symptoms instead of causes of the problem.
In other news, Lusaka Chief Resident Magistrate Davis Chibwili has discharged former Health Minister Dr. CHILUFYA and 7 others from a corruption case in a matter they were accused of conspiracy to defraud the government. Their discharge by court follows the Anti-Corruption Commission decision to withdraw the corruption charge against them. This is in a matter in which Dr. CHILUFYA and others were accused of defrauding the government in a deal to buy health kits worth more than $17 million US. Now, the former health minister was jointly charged with former Ministry of Health Permanent Secretary Caroline Kakulubelwa, former Attorney General Likando Kalaluka, Watson Lungwe, Procurement Officer Mwamba Emmanuel, a pharmacist, and the 3 honeybee directors Zakir Motala, Imran Lunat, and Abdurov Motala. More in this report.
The subordinate court in Lusaka was Thursday morning due to commence the trial of former Health Minister CHITALU CHILUFYA and others. Instead, the Anti-Corruption Commission applied for the accused to be discharged per Section 88 of the Criminal Procedure Code.
The state has decided to withdraw the charges. They've not given the reasons why, but clearly, as we stated right from the beginning, that there was no basis for this prosecution, and it was purely malicious and unnecessarily damaging to our client. And I think that the fact that they failed to take off and they've withdrawn proves that indeed there was no basis to have even started this. It has just caused people unnecessary damage.
Dr. CHILUFYA was arrested together with 7 others in October 2022 by the Anti-Corruption Commission on an alleged corrupt deal worth nearly $18 million United States dollars. His arrest was the latest twist in a series of prosecution of high-profile officials since the previous executive was defeated in August 2021 elections. Following his election in 2021, Republican President Hakainde Hichilema vowed to fight against graft and recover state's assets allegedly stolen under the previous administration. Lusaka Chief Resident Magistrate Davis Chimbuli has freed Dr. Chilufya and his co-accused. Prior to the state's decision to withdraw the case, the accused took their plea and denied the allegations. In this matter, the former Health Minister was jointly charged with former Minister of Health Permanent Secretary Caroline Kakuluberwa, former Attorney General Likando Kalaluka, Wilson Dungu, a procurement officer, Mwamba Emmanuel, a pharmacist, and 3 honeybee directors, Zach Montala, a marine lunat, and Aduruf Montala. The state had accused them of 1 count of conspiracy to defraud government, contrary to Section 313 of the Penal Code. Allegations before court were that the accused between the 1st of January 2019 and the 31st of January 2021 conspired to defraud the government in a manner in which honeybee farmers participated in the tender of supply and delivery of 50,000 health center kits and was consequently awarded a contract of supply and delivery of 22,500 healthy kits valued at above 17 million United States dollars. Miriam Kaimba, reporting for Camnet TV News.
The Constitutional Court has granted former Konkola Copper Mines Provisional Liquidator Milingolungu leave to amend his petition and file his notice of motion together with arguments out of time. Delivering ruling Thursday, the court notes that no prejudice will be occasioned to the state if Mr. Lungu files out of time. This is in a matter in which Milingolungu is challenging the revocation of his immunity from prosecution. More in this report.
The Constitutional Court has granted the plea of former Konkola Copper Mines Provisional Liquidator Milingolungu to amend his petition in a matter where he is challenging the revocation of his immunity. The court has also allowed Mr. Lungu to file his argument in opposition out of time. During the hearing of an application by Mr. Lungu to file an affidavit in support of notice of motion for leave to file arguments out of time and amend the petition, he submitted through his counsel Jonas Simba that the court has powers to allow him to file his argument in reply and the record of motion in this matter as sought, hence praying that the order sought by the petitioner be granted as the record ought to be filed together with the arguments. In response, the state objected to the application, arguing that it was improperly before court and worth not considering. However, the court ruled in favor of Mr. Lungu and allowed him to file on grounds that no prejudice will be occasioned to the respondent. The former KCM Provisional Liquidators petitioned the Constitutional Court seeking a declaration that the Director of Public Prosecution, having granted him immunity against prosecution in matters relating to his performance, the purported arrest and commencement of criminal proceedings against him following his re-arrest was an abuse of criminal proceedings. He has cited the Attorney General and the Administrator General in his petition as the respondent, respectively. He further seeks for an order of prohibition restraining the defendants from investigating, arresting and prosecuting him in respect of his performance as Provisional Liquidator of KCM. In the previous state's response and cross-petition, the Attorney General had urged the court to dismiss his petition and filed a counterclaim against him for the court to declare that the immunity he claims to enjoy was a nullity. The state had challenged the constitutionality and legality of the purported immunity agreement on grounds that the former Director of Public Prosecution, Lillian Siuni, had no constitutional power to grant Mr. Lungu immunity from prosecution. The state had also told the court that the purported immunity was revoked on the 22nd of December 2022 by the current Director of Public Prosecution. Miriam Kaimba, reporting for Camnet TV News.
The Lusaka High Court Judge Wilfred Muma has failed to take plea in a matter where he is accused of abuse of authority of office by offering a land to the Patriotic Front Party. The Director of Public Prosecution has not consented to the prosecution of Judge Muma. The accused made his first court appearance Thursday afternoon before Lusaka Magistrate Trevor Kasanda, where he was scheduled to take his plea. Judge Muma has been charged with 1 count of willful failure to comply with the law and abuse of authority of office. In the first count, he is alleged to have, on the 1st April and 31st of December 2018, while he was Commissioner of Lands, willfully failed to comply with the law, namely Section 84 of the Land and Deeds Registry Act, in a manner he instructed his subordinates to cancel certificate of title number 21818 relating to public property without following the law and applicable procedure. In the second count, he is accused of abusing his authority of office by requesting the Army Commander to surrender the certificate of title in respect to the said property and offering it to the Patriotic Front Party, an act arbitrary and prejudicial to the interest of the government. Social scientist Innocent Kolala has expressed disappointment that the opposition political party Patriotic Front has continued to drag former President Edgar Lungu into politics and propaganda for their selfish interest. His comment comes barely a week after the former president appeared in public mocking the current administration over alleged failed promises such as reducing the cost of living. In an interview with Camnet News, Mr. Kolala says the former head of state must not be made to be the enemy of the government, but allowed to live as a statesman and provides professional advice on national government issues. Details are in the following report.
The Zambian political landscape is never short of drama, especially now that the opposition Patriotic Front and the now governing United Party for National Development have switched responsibilities in governance. It seems the PF is keen about giving President Hakainde Hichilema's administration a taste of its own medicine in a quest to provide checks and balances. After a long silence, former President Edgar Lungu appeared in public and added to the Reds and Greens political argument by making metaphoric gestures that President Hakainde Hichilema used to make while in opposition to discredit government policies, especially the high cost of commodities such as fuel. ECL recently, when he escorted his son Daliso Lungu to appear before investigative wings in Lusaka in the company of PF officials, hit back at President HH over the high cost of commodities. But social scientist Innocent Kolala feels it is not a good idea for the opposition Patriotic Front to continue dragging the former head of state into politics. He says Mr. Lungu needs to demonstrate statesmanship and provide objective guidance to the nation as opposed to peddling the PF agenda.
Edgar Chagwarungu himself, he announced publicly to say he retired from active politics. So what more does he want? Are we telling Zambian people, you people who are from the Patriotic Front, are you telling the Zambian people that in your organization or in your party you are lacking leaders? Please let the man take the retirement seat and continue enjoying his package, as unlike abusing him. That is purely abusing the former head of state. We are not saying he's not a Zambian who could not advise or comment on national issues, but he is supposed to be harnessing. He is supposed to become a person who should be bringing everyone together.
He says the former president must focus on preaching national peace and unity,
and to continue advocating that Zambia has 72 tribes and Zambia has 116 districts and Zambia has a lot of people in this country, but as long as we are within the geographical area of this country, we are one. And this is what we are expecting our former Republican president to be doing, preaching peace and unity in this country, as unlike what we have started hearing that they want to start parading him so that he should be coming in public, start making certain comments which seems seemingly like political comments. These are not necessarily our former head of state. Please take the back seat and become a true father of the nation.
Patrick Soko, Camnet News in Lusaka.
Owners of small and medium enterprises in Lusaka Central Business District have urged the current administration to create an enabling environment which will allow their businesses to thrive, stating thus they are currently operating at a loss due to the high exchange rate of the Zambian kwacha compared to the United States dollar, as most of their goods are imported. Speaking to Camnet News, one of the traders, Stephen Tembo, who sells shoes at Lusaka Soweto Market, says the increment in bus fares announced by the Road and Transport Agency RATSA on Wednesday will further make business more unprofitable due to increased local transportation costs, stating that customers are not willing to buy at a high cost. The Road Transport and Safety Agency RATSA on Wednesday announced an increment in bus fares by 5% for intercity routes, 1 kwacha for local routes, 1 kwacha for intermine and peri-urban copper belt, and 2 kwacha for Lusaka peri-urban, following the upward adjustment of fuel prices January month-end. Details are in this report.
2022 statistics from Zambia's Ministry of Labor and Social Security show that 70% of citizens survive through the informal sector, doing various business ventures. It is for this reason that economists both on the local and international scene have been emphasizing the need for the business environment for small and medium enterprises to be made more conducive, as this is where most citizens earn their income. The prevailing economic situation has, however, concerned some business owners at Lusaka Soweto Market, who say the high exchange rate of the kwacha to the United States dollar, currently trading at 19 kwacha 14 ngwe to $1, has caused the prices of commodities to escalate as they are mostly imported, adding that they are hardly making any profit as customers always negotiate. One of the business owners, Stephen Tembo, states that the announcement made by the Road Transport and Safety Agency RATSA announcing the upward adjustment of bus fares will make it harder for small businesses to survive in Zambia. RATSA on Wednesday announced an increase in bus fares by 5% for intercity routes, 1 kwacha for local routes, 1 kwacha for intermine and peri-urban copper belt, and 2 kwacha for Lusaka peri-urban areas, in response to the upward adjustment of fuel prices, which were announced January month-end.
So if the government or if the president can help us in terms of bringing down the US, it can help us. We had the people who are coming from Botswana, but at the moment they are not coming due with the rate is high. So at the moment we are struggling. The customers are not coming. So we are not selling, we are just busy struggling ourselves to find something.
Background mamas bari bwino. Mwamene tingalira pamanje stikala mwavutikira. Business yatu tenzo kudya bwino. Tea tenzo kunga, sima tenzo kudya, apa manje tikudya tute. Iti kuti? Iyo. Yeah. Tikudya tute the whole day. Tikuti isaka ene mona yanga tisankoni na uku. Saka ene mona tenzo order 500, apa ti order 15 saka kubeva mentipezamo.
Business tikaoda masaka, tenzo order masaka 5 tenzo series. Apa tikaoda tuwiri tigulisa 1 week ni drama za sira na sapato za sira tilibena capital zonse zingena tikalibo gulisa hapo achitapeza profit kulibe tivutika so kutoka kusendie pamene achukwa kukongola tute na chini kumwa hapa
vindu ngoma misiri mushe sinda mushe life mwananze kulira ansa pa so 2 days gasaka tubiri stwenda mushe government ifika itilanga nepo vinspenda musha na ngoma misiri mushe.
Others have urged the current administration to fulfill their campaign promises of bettering the lives of citizens.
We find that maybe the profit is just a 25 or a 20 kwacha. If sinando 20 kwacha ufuniki wa kwere, manzi bibikapte kwanje ubanga sefi chita where.
Isa mwanga wazimai, ndisa chuona manyumba. Ndisa chisunga manyumba bati tibutika. Ela futi wanaleta process ya maloni, atifulika titenga maloni. Bati maloni ya menao ya guda kutititenga. Wanzenzo kwela kulisa mamaketias. Wafunikira kutititendizila vana wa masiye. Bantu wa kutika. Isa kwela batitendiza tupase maloni. But futi the process.
The business owners say they are now hoping for a time when their work could be profitable, stating that they're currently struggling to provide for their families. Zipora Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
The Bankers Association of Zambia has alleged that the prices of commodities on the Zambian market will increase following government's decision to increase the policy rate amidst the revised statutory reserve ratio. In an interview with Camnet News, Association Chief Executive Officer Leonard Mwanza says the central bank decision to revise the policy rate upwards will also put pressure on the country's inflation rate, which is likely to increase. He says the banking sector might not be impacted by the decision because it will pass the pressure on its customers, who will in turn pass it on to consumers. We have details in this report.
The move taken by the Central Bank of Zambia to adjust the monetary policy rate upwards by 25 basis points at the same time when it has increased its statutory reserve ratio by 2.5 percentage points in an attempt to counter the depreciation of the local currency might negatively affect the prices of goods on the Zambian market. The Bankers Association of Zambia Chief Executive Officer Leonard Mwanza says the decision to revise both the SRR and the MPR will reduce the amount of kwacha in circulation and in return create a new pressure point in terms of demand for kwacha, which will in the process increase the cost of funds, prompting the banks to start adjusting the interest rates.
I think what it will do obviously is to reduce the amount of kwacha in circulation, and by doing so create a new pressure point in terms of demand for kwacha. And in the process of doing that, we expect that the cost of funds will start increasing on the market. And likewise, as banks' cost of funds increase, we also are going to expect that banks will start adjusting their interest rates.
Mr. Mwanza further says the decision will also lead to the increase in the prices of goods on the Zambian market, which might lead to the increase in the country's inflation rate away from the target range of 6 to 8%.
Cost of funds will definitely have to start going upwards. Eventually, those who borrow have to pass that cost to their consumers by increasing prices, so then it becomes a cost of living story. And once it becomes a cost of living story, then it matures into inflation, because then that's what pops up and say, based on these fundamentals or these decisions or what's happening in the economy, we now have a scenario where prices have increased, and once prices start increasing, especially on the base things like food and other things, electricity, which you expect to increase as well, then they'll start filtering into the computation of what then is our inflation.
And Mr. Mwanza has also warned that banks might adjust their interest rate beyond the 25 basis point in order for them to adapt to the liquidity challenges that have been coupled with a revision in the statutory reserve ratio. Prudence Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
The Zambia Institute of Policy Analysis and Research says it has partnered with the United Kingdom to implement climate-compatible program meant to support policies and investment in sustainable energy and transport system to meet development priorities in the global south. ZIPA senior researcher Zali Chukuba says the project will also aim to provide evidence in support of inclusive transition pathway to climate-compatible growth in Zambia. Mr. Chukuba says climate change in Zambia poses significant threats to economic stability, energy, water and food security and livelihood. He says addressing climate change will need a well-researched solutions which will be applied on all projects that will be implemented in the country.
The CCG project has 3 interconnected components by which it proposes to interactively inform and advance climate-compatible growth potentials in Zambia. The first 2 are research-focused components. These are 1, the development of economic and energy systems system models that will support long-term planning in Zambia. The second one is understanding decision-making contexts around the bankability of energy projects in Zambia. The third component of this project is focusing on building capacity of technical experts in policy and decision-making. As researchers, experts and decision-makers, and even informers, interaction with this project and with each other is what will actually help to ensure that there is coordinated and focused approach in achieving the objectives of this project and the overarching goal of pursuing Zambia's low-carbon development growth agenda.
You are watching the main news on Camnet TV with Louisiana Lupumbo. Just now we take our first set of commercials. When we get back, we have more stories to join us after the break.
From time immemorial, we have had different types of lighting options, from those that can burn down our investments in minutes to those that dig holes in our pockets due to constant replacement and huge consumption of our ZESCO units. Savenda Electric introduces the new and advanced electric bulb with cutting-edge technology of LED that has low power consumption, gives out bright white light, and lasts up to 25,000 hours. Savenda Electric manufactures all types of LED light, like plastic LED fluorescent tubes, down lights, ceiling lights, outdoor fittings, and solar street lights made to customer specifications. Let's live on the bright side of life by choosing the wide range of Savenda electric lighting solutions that are available in all leading stores and supermarkets countrywide. For orders, call 0962-642-490 or email jnbunda@savenda.com or pchabula@savenda.com.
Your skin is the biggest muscle in your body. That's why we make sure that Oracle is #1 when it comes to taking care of your precious skin. Oracle Pure Petroleum Jelly and Glycerin soothes, moisturizes, and keeps your skin perfect. Oracle Pure Petroleum products for that perfect skin.
Are you looking for a prime land where to build your dream house? There is a beautiful corner plot, 50 by 47 meters in State Road area. For viewing and purchasing of the same, call SGK Property Company on 0966 610755 or 0762 166018. Secure your future by settling in a nice and peaceful area.
Thank you so much for staying on. We continue with the news. Health Minister Sylvia Masebo has told Parliament in Lusaka that 23 people have so far died from COVID-19 pandemic in 2023 alone. In a ministerial statement issued Thursday on the floor of Parliament, Ms. Masebo says the country has this far recorded a cumulative number of 342,511 new COVID-19 cases, while 813 are still active. She says the country is also currently responding to the outbreak of measles, cholera, and scabies, in addition to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic in various parts of the country. And the health minister says Zambia is on high alert for polio following the revealing of samples of polio in some sewer ponds on the Copper Belt. Ms. Masebo also says clinically diagnosed MAPs have been recorded and that all the patients are being treated accordingly.
You may wish to note that our government, through the Ministry of Health, working closely with the Zambia National Public Health Institute, known as ZNPHI, through a multi-sectorial approach, is currently responding to outbreaks of measles, cholera, and scabies, in addition to the ongoing COVID-19 epidemic in various parts of the country. We are also on high surveillance alert for polio, following the isolation of circulating polio viruses in sewer samples from Kitwe, with 2 cases, and Mfurila also 2 cases on the Copper Belt. And the current outbreaks in Malawi, Mozambique, and the DRC. We also report a notable increase in clinically diagnosed mumps. The patients are all treated accordingly. To note is that a total of 23 COVID-19 deaths have since been reported only in 2023.
Youth Changing the Mindset Organization Executive Director Comfort Mwansa says the youth-led organization will not relent in sending the message across in schools on the dangers of teenage pregnancies. Speaking in Ndola district at Hands of Compassion Community School in Mapalo area Thursday, where the organization shared information to more than 100 adolescents, girls and boys on the consequences of early marriages and how they can prevent themselves. Mr. Mwansa has urged the parents to abstain from marrying off their children and encourage them to focus on their education. We have details in this report.
Child marriages continues to be one of the issues that has affected many young people in different communities and the nation at large. Lack of access to education, economic opportunities, health services, particularly for girls, alongside severe poverty and weak legal enforcement mechanisms continue to fuel the vice. Youth Changing the Mindset Organization Executive Director Comfort Mwansa says that the organization has embarked on school and community sensitization programs in order to combat child marriages. He made the remarks Thursday, 16 February 2023 in Ndola District at Hands of Compassion Community School in Mapalo area, where the organization shared information to more than 100 adolescent girls and boys on the consequences of early marriages.
To help eradicate this issue which is affecting a lot of young people, we have embarked on school sensitization programs as well as community sensitization programs. And our organization today was at Hands of Compassion Community School, where we met different young people. We shared information about early marriages, the causes of early marriages, and how young people they can be able to prevent themselves against this vice. Therefore, it is just an humble appeal to our parents to ensure that we encourage young people to focus much on school and help them also abstain from illicit activities that are leading to early marriages. And
Mary Kangungu, a grade 8 PP, thanks the organization for visiting the school and providing vital information aimed at safeguarding their livelihoods.
Thank you for teaching us about early marriages. We learned about what can cause early marriages, and if you get pregnant at an early stage, it may lead to death. So I just want to encourage my fellows out there that early marriage is a bad thing. Early marriages can cause many bad things. I know that some people out there, it's not that they want to get married at an early stage or what. I know that it's depression, poverty, what. But I encourage you to stay away from boys.
They say the only person who is educated is the one who has learned how to learn and change. Hence, it is important that children are well educated in order to create a better society. Sampa Mlenda reporting for Camnet TV News in Lusaka.
The Zambia National Men's Network for Gender and Development Coordinator Nelson Banda has emphasized the need to place boys and men at the center of interventions aimed at combating gender-based violence in the country. And now, according to the Zambia Police Service, the country recorded 10,241 cases of gender-based violence, GBV cases, countrywide during the fourth quarter of 2022. In an interview with Camnet TV News, Mr. Banda explains that men and boys are the main perpetrators of the vice, hence the need to target them through awareness creation on the negative effects of gender-based violence. He further explains that there is need to change the mindset of men and boys and turn them into supportive allies towards women and girls.
What we need to do now, we need a complete shift to work with men and boys, because these are the ones that are seen to be perpetrators at two levels. First, we change the minds, we transform, we work with men to transform them, okay, into supportive allies, so that they can reach other men who are possible perpetrators in their communities. Okay, so that we've already started. We have trained men in Chiwombo, here in Lusaka, and other places. We have men's networks chapters in 22 districts where we're doing work with men. So we're transforming the mindset of men. The second part is we need.
Just now, we take our last set of commercials. When we get back, we have the rest of the stories in international and sports news.
Are you looking for a prime land where to build your dream house? There is a beautiful corner plot, 50 by 47 meters in State Road area. For viewing and purchasing of the same, call SGK Property Company on 0966 610755 or 0762 166018. Secure your future by settling in a nice and peaceful area.
Welcome back, and now the rest of the news. In our international news, the number of women and children migrating from the Horn of Africa to Gulf countries through Yemen has significantly increased and is a cause of concern, according to the head of the International Organization for Migration. The treacherous journey from Ethiopia, Somalia, and Djibouti through Yemen, called the Eastern Migration Route, has seen a 64% increase in the past 1 year of people seeking better livelihoods. With larger numbers of women with children and children traveling alone, IOM Director General Antonio Vitorino told the Associated Press. Climate change is a driver of the increased migration, he said. In the past, women and children would often opt out of the dangerous journey through the desert, mostly made on foot. Previously, men would leave their families behind and make the trek in the hope of finding jobs and sending money back home. Here's a roundup of international news.
The numbers of women and children migrating from the Horn of Africa to Gulf countries through Yemen has significantly increased and is a cause of concern, the International Organization for Migration has said. The agency said that the journey from Ethiopia, Somalia, and Djibouti through Yemen, called the Eastern Migration Route, has seen a 64% increase in the past year of people seeking better livelihoods, with larger numbers of women with children and children traveling alone. It said climate change is a driver of the increased migration. Eastern Africa is currently witnessing a major drought which has left millions of people across Ethiopia, Somalia, and parts of Kenya in urgent need of food assistance. The lack of rain has killed livestock and exacerbated poverty levels. The IOM has launched an appeal for $84 million to support more than 1 million migrants using the route through Yemen. It said desperate migrants are vulnerable to criminal gangs along the route and need protection against rape, violence, traffickers, and smugglers. Years of war have made Yemen appealing to human traffickers and migrants looking to go to richer Gulf countries.
The Central African Republic is preparing the 2023 local elections. On Tuesday, the country's Prime Minister, jointly with the President of the National Elections Authority and the head of the United Nations mission in the Central African Republic, MINUSCA, signed in Bangui a plan to ensure the safety of voters during the July polls. The Integrated Security Plan for the elections officially results of constructive dialogue between the Central African Defense and Security Forces and the MINUSCA. According to the spokesperson for the UN chief, the UN mission has provided specialized training on the protection of civilians to 25 defense and security forces operating in 3 prefectures. Initially scheduled in September 2022, local elections were postponed to January 2023, then July 2023.
Ivory Coast reopened its land borders Thursday, 3 years after they were ordered shut due to the coronavirus pandemic. The government spokesman said a decree to reopen the ports of entry was adopted Wednesday by the Council of Ministers. While the country's sea and air borders reopened after a few months, the land borders remained shut. As a result, travelers had resorted to using back streets to get in and out of the country. Traders were also taking advantage of the transport chaos to smuggle merchandise. Ivory Coast borders Liberia, Guinea, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Ghana. Last month, the National Security Council, chaired by the President, welcomed what it called excellent results against COVID-19 and announced the gradual lifting of the measures provided for under the state of health emergency.
And that is all the news we could accommodate in our international news. Time now for sports. In our sports news this evening, Tottenham boss Antonio Conte will miss Sunday's Premier League game against West Ham as he continues to recover from surgery to remove his gallbladder. Conte, 53, returns to work last week before the 4-1 defeat at Leicester City, although assistant Christian Sterling carried out post-match media duties. He had the operation in his native Italy 2 weeks ago. Conte later posted a message on Instagram to explain that his great sense of responsibility towards the club, the players, the staff and the fans has seen him return to the dugout too early. Conte stayed in Italy for his post-operation check following Tottenham 1-0 first leg defeat at AC Milan on Tuesday in the last 16 of the Champions League. There are 2 games at this stage, and I am sure that in second game I am at our stadium and our fans will create an important atmosphere to push us and overcome Milan. Sterling, 47, oversaw Tottenham's 1-0 win over Manchester City on 5th February in Conte's absence. Tottenham have not said when they expect Conte to return. And on that sporting item, we wrap up the main news. But before we go, let's look at the headlines that made the news. DUDUMWEZI constituency lawmaker calls on government to provide relief food for flood victims. The Bankers Association of Zambia predicts an increase in commodity prices. Court discharge former Health Minister Dr. CHILUFYA in a conspiracy to defraud the government case. In international headlines, rise in Horn of Africa migration, a worry, says UN official. And in sports, Tottenham manager Antonio Conte to miss London Derby against West Ham. We now look at the Camnet verse of the day coming from Galatians 6 verse 6. Anyone who receives instructions in the word must share all good things with his instructor. Thank you so much for watching. On behalf of the entire production and news crew, my name is Louisia Nalupumbwes. Bye for now. God bless and enjoy the rest of our programming on Camnet TV. Good night.